I'm Rob Kogan. I'm the curator at the U.S. Army Armor and Cavalry Collection at Fort Benning, Georgia. So I'm a tank curator, a Sofilein shepherd, tank shepherd, I mean. And I also get really good access, of course, to our wonderful archives that we have in our collection. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Army archives, one of the things that we have in the Armor collection are the archives that were used by Richard Pierce Hunnicutt when he wrote the famous series of books on American armor, Sherman, Firepower, Stuart, 10 books in total. In fact, can't see them because they're actually behind my chair on my bookshelves here. And so that's why I'm here tonight. I have a selection from the Firepower archives. A couple notes. Of course, the only reason why I have these home is because of the current environment. These were all signed out. Actually, bring the boxes they're in. They're signed out, recorded what I have. I'm not trying to hoard these for my own personal use or anything. Taking care of them, and then they will go back after they're digitized. Second thing is you'll notice, even though I'm not wearing any gloves, my hands have been freshly washed. Actually, when you work with paper goods in our industry, you actually aren't supposed to wear gloves because gloves can actually tear the paper fibers, and they actually make it harder to turn the page without ripping it. And then finally, any statements I make tonight while we're discussing these archives, personally, they're just my own statements. They don't represent the views of the U.S. Army, Department of Defense, the Center of Military History. That banter is all my own. And I just want to leave it at that. I don't know if I'm missing anything else, Sophie. Is there anything else I should add?
I think that's solid. It reflects what you've said in our previous introductions to your videos online. So without further ado, let us get into the...
Good stuff. 105 millimeters is fine.
That's cool and all, you know.
I see you 155 millimeters with T30.
Oh, here we go. So this one is
June 1948. So this is the equivalent for the T30. I mean, look at this beautiful cover. You can actually see here original old note stating that this is this was the reference for pages 85 to 91 in Firepower. So if you have your copy of Firepower, please feel free to follow along in your own book, boys and girls.
That's awesome.
All right. So a lot of this, though, is going to be similar because the hull of the T30 and the T29 are actually they're the exact same. They actually took a T29 and put a new turret on it. So most of this is not going to change. This is what boggles my mind, though. The combat loaded weight is actually, it says 8 tons less, which doesn't make any sense. Does not make sense to me. Does not compute. So I've still yet to figure that out. You know, it's got a much bigger gun. It should weigh more. So I don't know what changed it. But still 6 crew members. All right. So armament. Let's look at the cool stuff. So primary gun. It's a 155 millimeter T7. You have one 50 caliber coaxial gun, only one. One Bal 30 caliber machine gun, 50 caliber anti-aircraft gun. Only 34 rounds of 155 millimeter ammunition.
So that's 34 complete rounds. So you have 34 charges as well as the projectile itself. Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. So most of the same. So this one actually goes right up front with a little more on the operation of the vehicle. So
there we go. Starting the engine. It gives you.
Yes, you have normal temperatures, and then you have freezing temperature starting procedures. So there's different ones. So in cold temperatures, you follow starting procedure as outlined in the preceding paragraph up here. Except before cranking motor switch is operated, have member of crew in fighting compartment pump the primer as required by temperature conditions. So it has standard precautions about not over revving the engine, your oil temperatures, what you're looking for, uses of accelerator, push accelerator down slowly. So slowly. To stop the vehicle, release the accelerator and depress the foot brake lever. Keep control lever in speed range until vehicle is stopped, then shift to neutral. Quick stops can be made by releasing the accelerator and depressing the foot brake lever sharply or by using an on and off motion.
That would be sort of terrifying to see in person.
I feel like that would be trying to stop a T30 that quickly.
As a quick stop on a vehicle that large just sounds... It's just so much mass. It's one of the reasons, like, as a tiny detour, why I recommend that everybody that has even the smallest interest of tanks, whether it's from World of Tanks, War Thunder, or anything, is to go out to one of the events, not just at a museum where you can see tanks, but where they have tanks in motion. Because to understand the experience and to understand, like, the challenge in design is that much mass in motion is... viewing it for yourself is pretty incredible. So, and I think it's sort of important to see. But something like that, like, that's 70 tons of tank, and they're trying to teach you how to stop it as quick as you can. That's a lot of mass. That's a lot of mass in motion, and the idea of, like, being outside of a tank and near that is also sort of terrifying. What was, I was out of curiosity, are there any, are there differences in the speed compared to the T29?
Let us look here. Still 22 miles per hour is what it's saying.
It's curious.
So, and it should be about the same. I'm curious. I don't know if it has the weight of the turret. No, and I wish it would have actually had the turret weight, because that could have seen, because that's the biggest change between T29 and T30 is, of course, the turret mounting.
Yeah.
So yes, that's all those variations of T29, E3, T30, T34. Those all started as T29s. There was actually, I want to say, because I'm not looking at it right now, I want to say like 8 to 10 T29s that were made, and then over time, a lot of them were modified with other turrets or equipment.
Gotcha.
Now, the true unicorn, unfortunately, does not exist anymore. Better than the T30, in my opinion, for coolness, is the T29 E3, and that's a T30 with an auto-loading system.
Ooh.
Yes. Unfortunately, that is no longer with us. Moment of silence.
F in the chat for our lost armored
chat,
buddy. That is so cool to show how you maintain this thing. It's telling you how to inspect the doors, inspect the glass and all the vision ports. This is it's so cool.
All right, let's look here for some. Oh gosh, there's a lot of. So we have parts numbers. All right, it talks about how the turret lining is. This goes I think this actually goes a little more. It has more. Well, it probably doesn't have more detail, but it's definitely a little more succinct in that detail. Oh, what is that? Some more wiring plan, or this is the fuel line. So okay, so this is the fuel line diagrams. Oh, these are actually spread out throughout the vehicle.
That's beautiful. Cool.
Continental 12-cylinder aircraft engine. Interesting. So they were looking at other engines for this vehicle as well. So this is Detroit. Continental 12-cylinder engine. So this is actually a precursor then to the engines you see. 810 horsepower aircraft engine.
Do you know if on that variant of the T30 that we don't have any longer, was it an autoloader or a loading assistance system? Do you know?
It was an autoloader, because it actually has the T30E1 actually has a hatch on the back of the turret that it would eject out of. That's how you can tell a T30E1. In fact, if I had firepower up, but like I said, it's behind my chair actually, I would pull that out. That's just really. So this is the precursor to the engine that's later mounted in pretty much all the Patton tanks. So they're already also looking at different engines as well. So that's it, yeah. Okay, here we go. Schematics. That's what we're looking for. Man, I can already feel what I call Hunnicutt fatigue setting on. Where it's just so much information, taking it all in, that it's like I said. So yeah, different engine systems. So now you start seeing different muffler systems being used. So there's another way you can tell the difference between the T29 and T30. If you can't see the gun, also you can see here this grill back here, also a sign of difference because of that different engine type. And these are all modified from a T29 chassis. So very similar setup than you're going to see later on the M46 Patton, which is a modified, what do you call it, Pershing. Yeah, so see the big turret bustle there still being used. So unfortunately, I don't think there's anything on the auto-loading system in this particular manual. Okay, so wow, this is going in detail. So this is your gun mounting system assembly. So this is just showing you how it's all mounted in, all the part numbers, down to bolts and washers and their parts numbers if you need to order them.
Wow.
Oops. Mount assembly, gun, horizontal section. Okay, so this is looking from the top down at the gun. So you actually see how it all connects in. along with the recoil system. As you can see, very beefy recoil system. Yeah, this is the kind of stuff I love. These just very well done drawings, which if they just had the measurements in, like I said, you can almost read parts.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're going back in the hydraulic system, traversing mechanism around the turret. As you can see, it's the shape of the turret because it's going to be mounted around the turret ring.
Do you think somebody like Hilary Doyle would be able to use
charging battery
these diagrams from a part that they explain that we could find, that he could measure? Do you think that he could then draw up 2-scale schematics for tanks like that? Sounds like something that Doyle could do.
It's always possible, because we actually do have, friend of Hillary that's a volunteer of our collection that's helped him with stuff before. Like, one of the things is, if it is to scale, and that's the thing.
If it's to scale, that's the big thing that it would hinge on. Asking for a friend, if it would be possible to, if it's to scale is going to be the big thing, but I imagine if it is, well.
Yep.
Is there anywhere that you know of in your archives or otherwhere that a 2-scale set of records or blueprints for this vehicle would be able to be obtained? Asking for a friend.
I don't think in our archives they would have been with TACOM, Tank and Automotive Command. And they may have, from what I've been told, their archives is the equivalent of, the warehouse at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, yeah.
And then what really breaks my heart is they've come to me actually for schematics like this before because they simply tell me, oh, all that got thrown out years ago. And then I go, no.
That's not what I want to hear.
Which is why, having multiple archives, a lot of the talk is, should we centralize our entire archival system? And I'm against that because you have to have redundancy.
Yes.
We see with like the St. Louis fire at the National Archives, how many records get lost. I would rather have disorganized archives that at least are keeping duplicates of things that can be found than say, okay, we're going to organize everything in one spot and then have something catastrophic happen. Yeah. And I'm, personal opinion, of course, completely against, let's just digitize it all and then just throw the original out. That doesn't even make any sense to me.
Don't, that's, yeah, gross.
Yes.
Who says that? They throw them from the tower.
I'm not going to say who, but I have actually had people in my line of work actually recommend that.
Okay.
Yes.
Moving on.
Yes, and I personally, that's a personal statement. I just don't agree with that at all.
Yeah.
Sorry, people, if it seems like I'm kind of either flipping through or taking a little time. Again, I have not had a chance to go through all this before.
Yeah, it's a super cool, super detailed look at a tank and its workings, because it really helps me. For people like myself who have not served, there's very little time around a tank and its workings, and to be able to see the diagrams help it and how it works come to life a little bit. So what are we looking at here?
Yeah. Oh, so what we're seeing in this diagram, this is a rammer arm assembly. So because the round is so large, 155 millimeter, there's equipment in there that once the round's put in place, you have the equipment to actually push it into the gun breech mechanically. So all this would make a very, the crew would have had to have been well trained to do this all, under pressure. What is this? So this is all the auxiliary? Okay, so this is all auxiliary generator. Oh my goodness. Okay, so boys and girls, if you need to order parts for your T30, because sometimes they just break down and you need to order parts, here you go. Here's all the manuals and ordnance and manufacturer's numbers you need. I hope you're writing this all down because once I close the book. Yeah.
There will be a quiz at the end of the stream.
Yes, I hope you're memorizing all of this.
Wow. And so that's not something that's in the T29 volume.
No, I don't think it was necessarily. Which a lot of this, if it's not turret related or engine related, there should be a lot of crossover. Wow. How many screws and washers? Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so if you ever want to know how many parts are in a tank.
Yep. HunnicuttFatigue.com. Like the the oil seals and each of the gaskets and the pins and
Oh
the
my
washers
gosh.
and
We're still looking at.
it's pages.
Still.
It's pages and pages and pages. This is for one. This is for one tank, isn't it? Just one.
Yes.
All of this is just for one T30.
Yes.
And it has all the numbers for if you need to request supply. That's amazing.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so then here's all your tools and components. Okay, so if you need wrenches, where's my 10mm at? If anyone's been an Abrams tanker, that's a huge joke. Yeah, so here's all the tools you need on board. Your onboard equipment.
And it tells you
Or
exactly
BIs,
where to
all that.
carry them on the tank as well on that chart, which is pretty cool.
So here it has a list of all the manuals you would have to have on board in order to operate the vehicle. But what's interesting is, so for like case of point, manual technical vehicle, I don't think one was ever made because this is as close as we ever got to it.
Wow.
Because in many ways, the technical notes, the notes on material kind of start as like the prototype, if you will, the first draft for the actual operator's manual that then gets published as a technical manual, TM, if you will. So lots of tools on board. Now, how many tools did T34 have? 6. And I'm talking Soviet T34.
Yeah. And it's amazing that you see exactly where to put it. Like there's a place for every tool. Every tool has its place. That's something my dad taught me a long time ago. But it's nice to see, because you can't be missing. A tank has such limitations with regards to space. You can't just leave shit places. Everything has its place. You don't have space to spare, and the ability to move in around as a crew member. You can't have shit everywhere. And I think it's interesting to see exactly in the turret bolt, in the turret in the hole, in the tool bag, exactly listed with each of the tools in the chart. That's cool.
And part of that is to maintain accountability, because when a unit loses lots of tools, it adds up to a lot of money. And another thing is, if in combat, for some reason, I have to jump on another tank, if my platoon has all followed our standard operating procedure, SOP, no matter what tank I get on, I can always find the tool I need to fix, say, another tank. That is the whole point, is maintaining that standard, so that at any time everyone knows where their tools are at. What's cool here is it goes into what ammunition would be on board. So 30 caliber machine gun, you would have 2,500 rounds. For your grease guns, you would have 1,080. Ooh, that's a lot of grease gun ammunition.
That's a lot compared to what? Like, what would be sort of considered standard in comparison, if you know?
Well, case in point, I mean, that's the little machine gun. You remember when we did that video at Christmas time and I was talking about like the little machine gun?
Yes.
Yeah, that's that machine gun. So that's the crew's personal machine guns, and that's over 1,000 rounds of 45 caliber. That's a lot of personal ammunition for tankers.
Okay.
So your 50 caliber machine gun, you have 2,200 rounds, 34 155 millimeter rounds, 12 hand grenades, 4 fragmentation, 4 smoke, white phosphorus, and then 4 smoke grenades, and then 12 flares of different colors. That is a lot of ammunition on board for small arms.
Slowpoke brings it up in the chat that there's 6 crew on board, so I guess you would have to make sure that each one is adequately, you have to split amongst them. So you got to make sure your men are adequately able to.
Oh yeah, and that's really interesting, because at the start of World War II, you had every crew member had a pistol, but then each tank only had 1 Thompson submachine gun. But by the end of the war, we changed it where every crew member has a grease gun. And then fast forward to the 90s, when we start taking away the grease guns, every tank only gets 1 M16. So we kind of went back to how it was. And now these days, everyone has an M4. But even now, we're starting to go back to where each tank only has 1 rifle on board and everyone has a pistol.